There are many different types of way to synthesize new sounds from scratch. A lot of people use FM synth. We also got additive, subtractive. There's even the weird granular synthesis. But one of the things I keep finding myself going back to over and over is physical modeling. Now, physical modeling is a little different because instead of creating oscillators from scratch where you have like a sine wave and a square wave and those are added or morphed together in ways to make a sound, like a lot of what people think of as a synthesizer, a physical modeling synth is something that tries to emulate the size, shape, timbre, and the mathematics around physical objects to make them sound as if it were that physical object. In other words, okay, what's the math behind a tube? What's a tube that's so long, like 2 feet long versus 2 inches long with a string, or maybe a membrane like a drum, and you add all those things together to create the sound. Now in Ableton Live, we have collision, which is really great. You can basically come in and pick these different things, like you have your resonators, then you have filters and all sorts of stuff. But honestly, I find collision a little confusing for where the part is that I'm looking for, and it's just not that visually appealing, and really that's what I look for. Now in Logic, they have a fantastic physically modeling synth. I've been looking for something like that ever since then when I moved over to Live. Now I found one that I absolutely love called Chroma Phone, and this is Chroma Phone 2. Reason I love this is, first, it's easy to use. That's the number one thing I look at in a synth is when I'm looking at it, do I know what's going on? Is it easy to move around? So I basically can pick my preset over here. We can go with like, well, right now it's a mallet. We have specific presets. And then I have things like a few little effects up here, and then here's the basics of that instrument. But I can actually go to edit, and I can get into the meats of what makes up this synth. So we have the resonator, which is what I was talking about, which is the physical part. So this is emulating what a marimba resonator is like with those wood up there, but I can click this and choose all different types. I have a plate. Let's go with the tube. So this is basically 2 tube resonators, but if I have a marimba, it'd be like having these wood blocks on top of these tubes. And we can move between them. We can increase the decay, how long they ring out, the hit position. And instead of, again, looking at the specific sound, oscillators, sine waves, things like that, this is a different way of looking at it through mathematics that come together to create the sound. Like the mallet, we can decide, okay, if this was a physical mallet, how hard would the material be? Would it be one of those fuzzy kind? Or would it be a really stiff one, maybe rubber or just wood? It's a different way of thinking. You just kind of think about what the physical object might look like, and then you can emulate it and get the sound you're looking for. Sometimes when you're dealing with, let's say, even just mallets, that you want it to be very soft, well, you could say, oh, well, I just changed the mallet stiffness, and there we go. Or maybe you want it to be much more longer sounding, like it rings out for a long time, then change your decay, meaning that that resonator lasts longer, and so on. Another reason I love this is, honestly, the presets are pretty awesome. I come into the string section a lot. The strings are fantastic. Particularly I just really love the timbre and quality that we can get out of this physical modeling synth. Very easy for me to also change things, which is very important for me to get the realistic kind of morphing sound that I want from it. I can also go back to the play area, change my vibrato, all these different settings here, and we can also set up an arpeggiator if we want. And there are certain ones that have arpeggiation. We also have an effect area, which has things like reverb, delay, things like that. Honestly, tons of synths have this, and I don't use it that much because I'm really trying to create a sound, and I'll use my own reverbs, stack it out in here so I can see it. When they're set in their preset, or I can just slightly tweak it to get the sound I want, great. It's not the biggest deal. I prefer the different controls I get from the VSTs that I like, but I am super glad it's here. If you don't have a lot of VSTs for reverb, delay, and stuff like that, this is simplistic, easy to use, and sounds great. But me personally, I'll just make the sound and then throw on my own effects. But I'm glad they included that in version 2. This also, another huge point of this is it's really good on CPU. Look at that. Not even at 20%. Now, if I were to try to put in a lot of other physical modelers that I've seen out there, or I'm using contact libraries to get a similar effect, they can be massive on my CPU usage. I really love how much time they spent to make sure that this runs smoothly, doesn't break. I've never had this break, and yeah, I've loved it. So that's a little key. I've used this in quite a few songs coming up, and I'm going to be sharing those in the next few months or so. But I've tested it in the studio, and I just love the workflow of it. So back to physical modeling, this is the synth that I prefer for it. You can do a lot of these kind of ideas that I might have talked about within Ableton Live's instrument over in Collision. But when you come back to this one, you can see like it's just not that great to look at. It's not as interesting or easy to navigate. So there you go. That's Chroma Phone physical modeling for Ableton Live. Check out website, subaqueousmusic.com. We have tons of free articles, reviewed other VST plugins, shared massive amount of resources, over 220 articles with sample libraries. I've got live packs, I've got templates, you name it, courses online. Check it out, subaqueousmusic.com. And if you're interested, check out Chroma Phone. It is a fantastic synth made by Applied Acoustic.